I now give the floor to Ms. Salome Agbaroji, Youth Poet Laureate.
Ndeunu. Good morning, distinguished members of the General Assembly and guests. Thank you to the President of the General Assembly, His Excellency Mr. Philemon Yang, for the invitation to speak today, and to all else who helped make this possible. I am honored to join you all for the commemoration of the International Day of Remembrance of the victims of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade. As we gather today under this year's theme, acknowledge the past, repair the present, and build a future of dignity and justice, I wish not to dwell on the gruesome details of the human rights atrocity that was the transatlantic slave trade. The 15 million Africans kidnapped, commodified, and brutalized, the systemized sexual violence perpetrated towards enslaved women, and the many other hideous practices that underpinned the trade of enslaved Africans. I would much rather point out the peculiarity of these strange and bitter crimes. Europeans approached a foreign people and declared, "You're mine." To assume ownership of another human being and trade their life on coasts like measly seashells is morally detestable, sinister, but also exceptionally odd. To meet difference with disdain, then militarize it, write it into law, organizing all social forces towards upholding this artificial hierarchy of human life is strange and deplorable. As I unpack this twisted psychology, it reveals the audacious white supremacist motivation to claim and control both the Black body and, very importantly today, the Black narrative. As the 7th National Youth Poet Laureate of the United States, I am well acquainted with the transformative power of narrative and storytelling. And as the daughter of Nigerian immigrants to the United States, I wield this power every day in my practice, with the hope that my words empower and uplift marginalized narratives, revering writers like Professor Wole Soyinka for being true champions of the African narrative. But what does weaving a true Black narrative look like for me? It is viewing African art in European museums. It is delivering this address about Black and African liberation in my colonizer's tongue. It is reading African history accounts written by white explorers that paint my people as uncivilized barbarians. And even when we do have accurate histories, we refuse to disseminate them. Our books are banned, our voices are silenced. We sit willfully in the ignorance that empowers and perpetuates these systems. Today, we find ourselves in the middle passage of the path towards racial justice, the hazy and turbulent space in the journey between hell and home, where the majority of our suffering is hidden in the lower depths of our societies. The state-sponsored systems of institutional racism, like segregation, gentrification, and housing discrimination all over the world insidiously contribute to racial disparities. Even discrimination in the labor force thwarts Black progress, deeming us unqualified by the color of our skin before we even step through the door. So much so that assuming the incompetence of Black workers is called common sense. Where is home if everywhere we exist, whether taken there forcefully or by arriving from the merit of our own hard work, we are told we don't belong? In these troubled waters, we are waiting and waiting for a change. And as we repair our present, I urge us to nurture a global community in which Afro-descendants can look in the mirror and say, "You're mine." Turn the tide, flip the phrase to reclaim our personhood and our narratives. To African nations and Afro-diasporic communities, I say today that your value goes far beyond the human labor you provide, but lies in the vibrancy of your culture and innovations. You are not precious for your medals, but for your resilience, and simply your humanity. Our futures are as bright as the smiles we manage in the face of adversity. And I must also speak to the member states who have not yet formally acknowledged the part their nations have played in the transatlantic slave trade. I say, in our history, your nations have acknowledged my people enough for us to be the recipient of your whip. But in our future, acknowledge us enough to be the recipient of your remorse. In history, your nations have been economical enough to assign dollar values to human life. Today, and in our future, use this same economical prowess to assign dollar values to your ethical debt. I echo the Secretary General in saying that we need reparatory justice systems to move forward as a global community. This means supporting and sponsoring educational programs that tell the full and true African history. This means returning stolen goods to their rightful owners. This means putting our money where our morals are. We say we want a future of dignity and justice. An actioned acknowledgement would not bestow the Black diaspora with dignity, for that could never be taken from us. The necessary work of reparatory justice is the way these nations regain their own. I appreciate the few nations who have begun this work, but know that this is only just the beginning. Before we leave this chamber today, I urge you all to reflect upon your own nations, asking, what has your nation done to rebalance the scales of justice? What more can be done to bring the ship from hell finally back to home? And realize that this future we call good is well within our collective reach. Thank you.
I thank Ms. Agbaroji